barrel. Oh my God.
That guy there is known as Jamie O'Brien. He's one of the greatest surfers to ever live. And growing up, he was one of my biggest inspirations. Not for the surfing, but because he is more than surfing. He helped pioneer an action sports webisode series, and that opened my eyes up to the world of filmmaking. Now that kid there is me at 16 years old, when I first picked up a camera and began my hopeful journey to becoming an action sports filmmaker, where one day I too dreamed of creating pieces like Jamie's TV show. I'm 23 now, so my journey began 5 years ago when I was 18 and went to college to study film. Then I dropped out 6 months in, created my own freelance business, rode the roller coaster of a startup company, eventually landed a few amazing jobs, landed a really big job, get my name somewhat on the map, and then most recently, I got a message from that inspiration of mine. Fast forward 2 months from that text, and my story on becoming a filmmaker has unfolded into one that I could have never imagined. You see, this is the 5th installment to my autobiography on becoming the filmmaker that I've always dreamed of. And if there's one thing that I've learned on this incredible ride, it's that if you have a dream and you're determined and passionate enough to achieve it, anything is possible. And for me, that realization happened on September 9th, 2019, when I booked a one-way ticket to Hawaii to accept my new job as Jamie O'Brien's personal filmer. Living in Hawaii was something that I told myself I had always wanted to experience at some point in my young life. But to be here on behalf of Jamie was something that I could have never dreamt up.
This guy is behind the scenes doing a good job, and I promise I'll give you barrels this way. That's soon.
For starters, I was gifted a room in one of the most legendary houses in the world. Beachfront, directly lined up with the world's most famous wave, Bonsai Pipeline. Surfing was also this newfound passion for me, and to move to the Mecca and learn alongside one of the legends in the sport was fairy tale-esque, man. Especially when I got my first pipeline tattoo only a week into the job.
I thought you were gonna get barreled.
I pretty much did, into a rock. For me, it was like I was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, living in the hottest spot in Hollywood. I had guys like Kelly Slater, John Florence, and Kai Lenny in my backyard daily, and I pretty much lived with Jamie. Thank you, Jamie. To say I was starstruck would certainly be an understatement. None of it felt real. I was in awe with Hawaii, and all I wanted to do was embrace the beauty of my new home. Although Hawaii is not a hard place to fall in love with by any means, it did take a little bit to meet people. It was a new move, and being from the mountains, I felt like quite the fish out of water. But eventually, I settled in really well. When I wasn't working, I would surf all day or explore the island with this amazing group of friends that I'd made. I got to learn how to sail, I swam with dolphins and eagle rays, and after a long process of trial and error, I finally figured out how to get barreled. With Jamie blocking the entire lineup for me, of course.
Oh my God.
At the end of it all, I can't express how my time in Hawaii was truly a dream come true. And after living there for a couple of years, it quickly stole a piece of my heart. And now, I can't really imagine living anywhere else. But beyond my newfound home and the experiences that I was having within it, I was here for a reason. I was here to film and edit for Jamie O'Brien And that's a whole story on its own. If you've been watching my chapters since the beginning, you'll know where I wanted to take my career of film. Ever since I left college, and frankly, even before college, there's this endless evidence within my younger self that I had a dream of becoming a traveling filmmaker under the umbrella of action sports. As my story has unfolded, we can see that dream started to become more and more intact. With the increasing flow of these traveling freelance gigs I was getting, and then being awarded Ski.com's Dream Job winner, and now working alongside Jamie, it kind of felt like I truly achieved everything that I had ever wanted. This job with Jamie was my first time being introduced to the world of YouTube filmmaking and the creation of vlogs. And coming from a documentary style background, it was certainly a switch up that offered both its pros and cons, but I mainly saw it as an opportunity to become a well-versed creator. 2 months into the job, and my friend Justin Graham ends up getting hired by Jamie too. Justin and I quickly became partners in crime, and the filming side of this job was as good as it gets for us. We'd wake up and chase down the best waves in the world, and then every session, we get a front row seat to the best surfing show on the planet. Before COVID struck, we were jet setting. Within the first few months on the job, we went to California, Japan, and even Brazil to hang out with the newly crowned world champion Italo Ferreira. And perhaps that was the most special part. Even greater than the places I was able to see were the amazing people that I met along the way. My 2 years on the job was nothing short of surreal. But we did work a lot, and we had many hard days. Although it may seem like endless perfection, the glass was full of its blood, sweat, and tears. It was quick turnaround content. We were releasing 2 videos a week. The second you stopped filming, you started thinking about editing, and then the second you click export, you had to stop and do it all over again. But I knew what I was getting myself into, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
From the crew, all of us, we love you guys. Thank you for your continued support.
Now, in all honesty, I was originally hesitant to work for Jamie solely on the fact that I was creating vlogs for a living. But it was this experience that opened my next door. A year into working with Jamie, you may know that I started taking YouTube seriously on my own front. And it went super well. It's called Unboxing Boxes. I grew nearly 20,000 subs in just the first few months, and even though I realized that I wasn't making super meaningful films as much, it has been growing and interacting with a dedicated community that I've found super special.
Well, thank you for the support.
You're welcome.
You guys make it possible.
By now, 2 years have gone by working for Jamie, and I recall fighting this internal battle, asking myself, should I work for him for another year, or should I branch off and try my own thing? At the time, I remember feeling especially homesick, and in the background of all of that, the idea of the Sickos was getting tossed around, and my crew needed me to make it a reality. You see, long before I worked for Jamie, his Who Is J.O.B. series inspired both myself and my friends to get outside and get creative. I remember as a young kid, we'd always talk about how one day we were gonna have our own TV show like Jamie's crew, and it would be called The Sickos. So there I was, at the end of my second year working alongside the guy that inspired it all, debating to either continue on together or to leave this dream job and chase another. But when I took a step back, I realized that if there's one thing I've learned in this story of my life, It's that taking risks has written my greatest pages. So evidently, I decided to close this chapter in preparation to write my next.